everybody, I'm Lorraine Sush from StepWithLorraine.com, and I'd like to share with you today a video that takes little strips of cardstock put together to make a panoramic view. So actually you're going to start with one piece of designer series paper or something that you've stamped to create a scene, and you're going to cut it into strips, mat them individually, and then put them together like several panels in a row to make a panoramic view. You might have seen some artwork like this. I've seen plenty of art decor where each individual panel is hung separately, but together they make one whole piece. So we're going to do that with our card today, and I'm going to use several different designer series papers to do that with, and we're going to vary the heights of them and create can even do masculine cards. So I have several to show you, so please stay tuned to the very end till you see them all. I would love it if you give me a thumbs up down below and leave a comment if you like the video. And don't forget to visit StampWithLorraine.com. When you're there, you can sign up for my newsletter, and you can also visit my Facebook page, Stamp with Lorraine. And we'd love to hear from you, so stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy this tutorial, and I hope you try some of your own too. Okay, so I'm going to find the section that might look the best and have that carry over. So maybe just right here would be fine to get some of the flowers and the peaches in. So I want that to be 4 3/8 wide. So just find out what works best for the paper that you're using. And 4 inches high. Okay, so I thought that looked nice to get some flowers, some leaves, some peaches. So it's going to look like a little grove there, a little orchard. I chose Mossy Meadow to go along with the Sweet as a Peach designer series paper. And your cardstock you want to be 5 inches wide by 4 1/8 high. So I'll do 5 by 4 1/8. Okay, so then this is what you have. You should have just that little bit of a 1/16 of an inch on the top and the bottom. Now don't worry about the sides being wider. It's okay, because what we're going to do, we're going to split this up into panels and spread them out. So we need a little extra border because there's going to be a border around each panel. So we want to cut. Let's do the cardstock first. And we're going to cut this into strips. Now make sure you have the 4 1/8 tall. Okay, on the tall side, you hold this horizontally. And we are going to cut off 7/8 of an inch. Now my trimmer has the measurements on the right hand side, so I can go this way. If you need to go the other way, that's okay too. You want to cut off 7/8 of an inch. I'm going to go this way. Okay, and then you want to cut off another 7/8. That's going to be your 2 panels on the right hand side. And then you can cut off another 7/8. Now it doesn't really matter which side because the cardstock is plain. So this one isn't going to matter. When we do the designer series paper, it will matter exactly from where we cut it. So this is going to be a panel on the left and another 7/8. Will be another panel. So you have 2 7/8 panels on either side, and then your middle panel is going to end up being 1 1/2 right in the middle. All right. So here's what we have. 2 panels at 7/8, and the middle one is 1.5. Okay, so now we want to cut the designer series paper in a way that's going to fit into each of those panels. Let me just move these up out of the way. Bring back my trimmer. And now make sure you hold these in the right way. It's going to be slightly longer width than the height. So with the height being 4 inches, okay, you should, if you have a scenery on your designer series paper, you'll be able to make sure you're in the right direction. Make sure you are at the 4 3/8 wide when you slice these panels. Okay, so we want them slightly smaller than the 7/8. So that means we're going to go to 6/8, which is also 3/4. So from the right side, we are going to cut off 2 strips that are 3/4 each. And that's going to get matted on the cardstock like that. Okay, don't do any gluing yet. Okay, let's just lay it out. And then another 3/4. Like I said, it's 1/8 less than the Mossy Meadow mat. So 6/8 is 3/4. All right. So then now there are 2 ways you can do this. For the panels over here, if you want to just continue to cut 3/4 off the left side, put them in here, you can do that. It's easy to remember. Or you can cut the middle piece here, which would be 1 3/8. So just because it's easier to continue cutting 3/4, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut 3/4 off the left side because you want to keep these in order to get that panoramic look. And then another 3/4. That way you only have one measurement to remember. You don't have to remember the middle one, 1 3/8. And that's what it's going to look like. Okay, now don't do any gluing yet. Don't get ahead. Because what we're going to do is stagger or variegate how tall these are. We want the middle one to be the tallest, and then we're going to bring these shorter and shorter to the end to give sort of that panoramic look even more, to exaggerate that. So what we're going to do, this one stays the same. I'm going to just glue that down right now to not get confused. And I know that one's done and ready to go. So you're left with a 1/16 of an inch all the way around. And like I said, you want to make sure that these are staying in the right order, so you have that continuous look of the scene, so to speak, the picture. Okay, so that's there. Now these, we want the next 2 to be cut down a 1/2 inch, but start with a cardstock first. I'm going to cut that down 1/2 inch. Now when I cut this, I'm going to split that 1/2 inch by cutting a 1/4 on top and a 1/4 below. So that way the center of that image continues across. Okay, so 1/4 inch on top, 1/4 inch below on the designer series paper. Flip it around, 1/4 inch on the bottom. That way the image will stay centered and it will be continuous across the card. All right, so then that's going to go like that. Do the same thing on the one to the left of the center. Okay, 1/2 inch off the cardstock. And split the difference, 1/4 inch on top, 1/4 inch on bottom. Okay, now those are done. I would like to just glue those on. That way I'm sure they're done and I'll be able to line them up and get the right effect. Using the liquid glue is very helpful because when you're trying to get that even 1/16 inch all the way around, you have a little bit of wiggle room before it dries completely. I think when you have the smaller your border, the more noticeable it is once if it's crooked. Okay, but this gives it just enough to frame your image without distracting from that image. Okay, so notice how these are going to be a little bit shorter. Now these are going to be even shorter. So the cardstock, we're going to cut off 1 inch. And then split the difference on your DSP, 1/2 inch on top, 1/2 inch on the bottom. And make sure it's going the right way. And then the same thing on the far left one. 1 inch off the cardstock. Half inch off the top, 1/2 inch off the bottom. And then it should mat perfectly. And we'll glue that on. Okay, now this is the order we're going to glue it onto our card base. And I think I've showed you before on some other videos that I love to use my grid paper, not only just the sides where it has the inches vertically and horizontally. When you're measuring a piece of cardstock, it's easy to see both measurements right away. But I love using this part on the top where it gives you the center and then the measurements going out, because that way I can center my card and the pieces more precisely. So I'm lining up the center with 0, so that means I'm going to be at 2 3/4 on either side, so I know I'm going to be even. Now this piece here is going to go right in the middle, so if I'm centering the 0, that means I'm at 3/4 inches on both sides, because this was 1.5 inches. So I'm going to glue that right onto there, the center piece first, and then we can work the sides out and get them evenly spaced. And this should leave about a 1/16 of an inch on your card base as well. Just a little bit on top, a little bit below. All right, and then we're going to do the other two, and I'm going to just eyeball and get an idea of how much space is going to be in between each one, because you do want it evenly spaced to keep the integrity of that panoramic view. So I'm going to make sure they're in the right order. See, I see the leaves are there, and this is the rest of the peach and those little flowers coming over. So what I like to do is I like to glue this next one down, but keep this handy so I can sort of measure where this piece will go. So I will use this as a guide and make sure I'm getting them fairly evenly spaced, leaving the same amount on top and below. And then we can glue the next one down on the right. Again, leaving equal space on either side and the top and bottom. So you have that sort of step down look. And then same thing on the left side. Working from the center out. Use this one just as a guide. All right, making sure it's in the right order. Okay, then you have that pretty panoramic look all the way across, and then all you need to do is add a sentiment. If you wanted to add, if you had more plain DSP, you can always add maybe a die cut or a punch to this. I'll show you that in a second. So let's get a sentiment here. We're using the Sweet as a Peach stamp set here, and I will do maybe thanks so much. Okay, and I will use white cardstock. Okay, this is 1/2 inch. That should fit on there. Yep. And I'm going to use the same color as my mat. I'm going to use the mossy meadow. Here we go. Okay, I think my mossy meadow needs re-inking. So we're going to try that one more time. Okay, should that happen, just move your stamp around, because certain parts of your pad, obviously the middle might get used up more and the edges might be more inked. So kind of move it around to different places and see if it inks up more evenly. That looks better. All right, that's better. Okay, and then trim that down, and we'll add that to the front of our card. You don't need much else. Like to pop that with dimensionals. And I will hide my goof there. I love to take your pick tool for picking up those mini dimensionals, nice and easy. Come on. Okay. And decide where you want to put your sentiment, front, top, bottom. You might want to consider what your design looks like. I might not want to put it here because it's hiding those pretty flowers there. I could do it here. I could do it maybe over here. I think I might put it here because it's just some leaves. And there you go. Nice, pretty card. Something different, right? Okay, if you want to add any embellishments, you could, or a little ribbon or a bow or something, feel free to do that. So here's another one that I did with the retired from Celebrations, the daffodils. Did that on Evening Evergreen and did my panels across. And I use Happy Birthday from the Sweet as a Peach also. And a little bit wider this time. You can see what that looks like. And again, you want to kind of see where it's going to fit and not hide the images that you like the best. So I'm thinking down here looks kind of like I don't want to say dead spot, but a spot where I don't worry about covering too many of the pretty flowers. Okay, so look how pretty that is. So just a different kind of look. Okay, this is on white, this is on vanilla. And once you have that DSP on there, you don't need much to get your sentiment going. Now here's another one with some retired designer series paper. It was from, let's see. Well, it had this, it had with the maps and everything. Okay, the more masculine kind of paper. And, okay, I don't have the name on it anymore. Oh, World of Good. That's what it's called, World of Good. But retired. But I thought the maps, again, would be a nice thing to do because it's a continuous picture. And then what you can do is, I said, you can use a die cut or a punch. I use the compass from Sailing Home, right? And unfortunately, this is retiring this year. So if you're watching this video in March of 2022, this is going to be retiring. It's not in the new catalog. There is another set that has a lighthouse on it that is a little different from this one. This one seems a little bit more detailed. The other one is taller, skinnier, and you can add thick stripes to it. I personally like this one better. So if that's up your alley, you might want to make sure you get that before it's totally gone. So that's available until supplies last, or the end of April. Okay, so I stamped this in Early Espresso. This is mounted in Early Espresso, and we're going to put that little compass right on there. I put some dimensionals on the back. And from that Sailing Home set, I'm using the sentiment, "You Are My True North." Okay, might be nice for a birthday, for a loved one, your hubby, your significant other, or an anniversary. Okay, and I'm going to just kind of sneak that underneath there. So I'm going to glue this down first, and then have my compass ready to go. So I can figure the spacing both at the same time. Oops. Ooh, that was convenient that it fell upside down, wasn't it? Oh, I wanted to do a little banner cut at the end of this. I forgot. Okay, because it's glue on there, I'm going to use my special scissors I use only for sticky things to do a banner cut with your scissors. Cut down the center and then cut from the corners down to the bottom of your first cut. And then that comes off. Same thing on the other side. And you have a banner cut. Okay, that looks nicer, I think. Now, I try to, I like to put things sort of askew on one side or the other. I know when you're holding a compass, you can certainly look at it different ways. But because it says "You Are My True North," I'm wanting to make sure that goes north, south, east, west. So I'm going to just move this over a little bit. Okay. Make sure that's straight. Okay, and there you go. All right, so there are 3 different renditions of this. It's a panel card because you have these strips and panels. Now I've seen one where it was called a variegated panel card. I like to think of it as sort of a panoramic, but like I said, you can use other patterns in here. It's just you're not going to get that sort of panoramic effect of the one image going across. So play around with it and see what you like. And I will add a few more pictures of some others that I do just to give you other examples. Okay, so hope you enjoyed that and hope you can try some on your own.